This is Teaching with Purpose, and I'm Rochelle Wilson. Welcome, and let's get started with training video 1. If you're an educator, parent, or youth leader, I want to thank you for taking time to stop by and exploring this unique SEL resource with me. Right now, we're going to dive into the philosophy behind purpose over popularity and discuss how it addresses today's challenges and its relevance to classroom culture. So let's get started. I was an educator for 9 years. Before I stopped teaching, I was a middle school ELA teacher. In that role, I noticed a lot of changes in those students that I couldn't ignore. In 2022, right after COVID, when we finally started to get back into the classroom, I had students that were all masked up, and I noticed some issues and a lot of drama that was escalating amongst them. One little girl in particular, she had an issue where she had sent a young man a picture of her body, and he shared it with the majority of the class. You can imagine the hurt, pain, and shame that this young lady felt and the disappointment her parents felt. Not only that, I noticed she was gravitating towards kids that really didn't have her best interest at heart. She would hang around this group of girls who would smile in her face and kind of be friendly-ish to her when she was around, but anytime she was not around or not in their presence, they were always plotting to hurt her and do mean things to her. And it didn't matter how many opportunities she had to see how they treated her and to recognize that they really weren't her true friends. She still wanted to be liked and accepted by them. Another student I had a lot of potential, very smart, very lovable, bubbly personality, and she wanted to date. And the guys that she would choose to date were pretty much troublemakers. They were constantly in trouble, weren't making the best choices. And I wanted to know, what is it about them that draws you to them? Like, why do you want to date them? Now, I don't encourage kids to date, but I do want to help them make good choices no matter what type of relationships they're trying to form around them. Even as early as middle school, it's important for our youth to understand the company that they're keeping around them. This is how I started mentoring. I took those two young ladies and I started meeting with them after school, and they started bringing their friends. Before I knew it, I went from having 2 girls to 15, and then within a few short weeks, we were up to 30 girls. By the following September, because this was in February, by the following September, I had 60 girls in my program and 5 mentors. This experience led me on a search to find a curriculum that would help me address their social emotional needs in a way that made sense to them. Found a lot of cookie cutter type SEL programs, but nothing that really reached and did a deep dive into what they actually struggled with in their everyday life. So I formed a focus group with some 6th graders, and I started talking to them and asking them questions about what I saw and how they interpreted it. From there, I formed my book, Purpose Over Popularity. In this book, I shared a lot of my own personal experiences, being very vulnerable and transparent, but also giving parents an opportunity to find out more about what their kids are experiencing at school. Most importantly, it's a guidebook to help kids build their self-esteem and their self-worth, and to value intrinsically who they are versus the external validation of popularity. Social media had a tremendous impact on my students. We were coming right back from COVID, where everything shut down and the only form of connection they had was social media. That's when TikTok blew up. Our students started being on Instagram, Snapchat, Roblox, any way that they could connect with one another during the shutdown. That is how they did it. And during e-learning, each kid had a one-to-one Chromebook or iPad, and they spent the majority of their time in their devices. This led to a lot of abuse and misuse of technology. There's numerous studies showing the harmful, detrimental effects that it's had on our students' mental health and wellness. In my classroom, during a writing prompt, I asked my students one simple question. Would you rather have 1 million followers or $1 million? Now, for me, that's an easy question. Give me the $1 million. But for them, they prefer to have 1 million followers. And I couldn't understand why. So I asked them, why would you prefer 1 million followers? Now, they gave me a ton of explanations. The biggest explanation that they gave me was that they could monetize off of those followers. And as much as that made sense to me, if you had the money, you could invest that into whatever program you had. Now, that's how I thought. But they don't think about those things, because unless they actually have a purpose or a driven goal that they want to invest in, they don't see the value in the money. They see the value in the likes and follows. This is how I entered the journey of teaching them the importance of purpose, internal value, intrinsic motivation, and self-worth versus popularity, extrinsic validation other people liking you and validating you, and things that are really temporary and hard to maintain. If you ask my students, what do you define as popularity? And they look at influencers. Influencers are popular. Influencers are the it people. If they're on any social media platform, they can tell you exactly who their favorite influencers are. It doesn't matter what they're famous for, because people could be famous for the wrong things. It's the fact that they have that notoriety and people are following them and watching everything that they do. We don't always have the best role models for our youth on social media, yet they pay attention to the likes and the follows. So, in the book, Purpose Over Popularity, I'm encouraging students to not so much focus on that popularity piece, but more so focus on the personal values, the morals, the actual well-being of themselves as well as the people around them, because that's the measure of true success, right? This book opens up a great opportunity for parents and educators to pour into the kids and really help them along this journey of understanding and emotional intelligence. So, what's the role of SEL in our classrooms today? Why does it matter more than ever that we're giving our students these tools? As a classroom teacher, I found a heavy emphasis being more on classroom management than actual teaching instruction. Why? Because again, as a middle school teacher, I saw it all. There were kids that were bullying, vaping, fighting in the bathroom, sending inappropriate things in social media or on text messages, even on their Chromebooks in a Google document. And all of these things became a distraction to the learning environment. The more I was able to address the students' emotional needs, the more I was able to reach them academically. As students began to learn more about self-awareness, self-management, and responsible decision-making skills, they started doing better in school. I saw shy kids starting to thrive, open up, get connected with new social circles. I saw students that had behavior problems previously going to their teachers and asking for help and support and advocating for themselves and starting to make little changes. And it's all it takes. Small changes make a big change later on, right? And I saw their confidence grow. That was the most rewarding experience ever. Watching kids really become more self-aware, confident, and really believing that they could do more than what they saw around them. As educators, we're recognizing that at this point, it's no longer classroom management. Now we're managing traumas. And as a trauma informed teacher and trauma informed educator, I know that all it takes is one strong relationship with an adult, a valuable adult, a trusted adult to build resiliency. That is the key for them to start to build resiliency and become successful in their future. So, being a mentor, a teacher, an educator, and an advocate, I wanted to be that asset builder in my community. And it was important for me to not only have this for my students in my classroom, but to make sure that it was available for educators everywhere so that they can do the same thing in their classroom and empower their students. I made it so they can tailor it to the needs of their students because no one knows your kiddos better than you. Let's discuss some of the core themes of purpose over popularity. Throughout the book, you're going to see these key concepts come up several times: self-worth, friendships and relationships, long-term thinking, and personal growth. Self-worth. We want to make sure our students understand their value. Friendships and relationships. This is an opportunity to teach them how to navigate healthy, loving, and supportive relationships versus unhealthy, toxic relationships. Long-term thinking. Our students need as much support as possible to be hopeful and envision their future. I can't tell you how many kids I've encountered that really can't tell you what they want to do later in life because they don't see a future. And personal growth. We want to foster a community of emotional intelligence and teach them the skills of having empathy. With these tools and key concepts, students have a better chance of overcoming negative situations such as cyberbullying and peer pressure. This is where the Purpose Over Popularity playbook is going to come into play. It provides practical lessons and activities to teach these themes effectively. So, what are some real world challenges that your students face? How do your students use social media and what's the effect that it has on their mental health? What are some issues that start coming to affect the classroom that usually take place at home or after school? Do you notice that your students are more likely to go along with the crowd even when they're wrong versus standing up and making good choices that are correct? Do you find that a lot of your students are struggling with their self-image and self-worth? And are they grappling with the pressure to conform and fit in? If you recognize a need in any of those areas, this is the perfect resource to help your students develop a strong sense of purpose and some emotional resilience. One of the best stories I can share with you is watching the young ladies in my mentoring program start to set boundaries with people that they were friends with. They would stop taking people in right away and bringing them into their inner circle, making them their best friend within a few days of meeting one another, and start observing people more and deciding, you know what, this person has shown me that they're not my friend. I'm going to create some space in between us so that they don't have another opportunity to hurt me. It didn't mean that they didn't like them or ostracize them or just didn't want anything to do with them, but it meant that they started paying attention more to character versus personality. You can love someone's personality and enjoy being around them, but if they have some character flaws that show that they're not a good decision maker and they're going to influence you in the wrong way, it's better to just set some space and some boundaries until you're in an opportunity that you can be a positive influence to them. How can educators make a difference? In the playbook, I've outlined for you different ways you can integrate this book and this coursework into your classroom. Maybe you have some time throughout the day where you can just have short reflection activity. If you're a teacher that teaches writing or journaling, you can incorporate these journal prompts in so that kids are reflecting on their everyday life. Maybe you do restorative justice circles. These are great prompts and activities for you all to discuss these things as a small group or have them role play some of the scenarios that are in the book. This could be something you do on a daily basis or maybe once a week. Maybe every Friday you guys have a group discussion and you're preparing them for the weekend ahead. Maybe this is a way you can close out every day with a small group check-in or a whole group check-in to talk to those individual kids before they go home and, maybe make some choices that are positive in their downtime. If you're already using an SEL curriculum, this is a great way to add it as a companion guide and integrate those into your daily activities. For example, a fun game I played with my mentees and my students was friend or not. They would have two different cards. One would say friend, the other one would say not. You could read the scenarios off to them and have them decide, is this person a true friend or not? And let them discuss why they shared their answer. This is a great way to spark a deeper conversation about self-worth and friendship. But again, these resources are meant to be adapted by educators to meet the specific needs of their students. If you stay with me this long, I'm going to challenge you to join the movement. Our students need more than just knowledge. They need purpose. Let's help them find it. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe and follow Mrs. Wilson's Classroom for more information.